Welcome back, everybody, to another weekly episode with the one, the only, the legendary strength coach, according to Men's Health Magazine, Dan John.
Always a
Cheers,
compliment.
Dan. How are you?
I'm doing good. In fact, I was at a classroom they asked me to speak to a class down at a university. It was kind of fun talking to students about success. I gave them my success formula, and it was kind of nice. I enjoy working with younger people.
Well, you have to share that with us. This success formula,
Well,
please.
most of the listeners will know, but it's the 3-2. It's 3-2-1. First are the three rules of success that I stole these from a Success magazine. It was a little, but it's one, show up. Two, keep going. Three, don't quit. And then there's the two tools, shark habits and pirate maps. And then number one, so 3-2-1, is your personal mission statement. And mine, of course, is make a difference. And the reason I think that's so important is, I wasn't the Olympic gold medalist. I never made it in the National Football League. I never kicked the winning kick in the World Cup. I never got an NBA championship ring. But my North Star is make a difference. So the way I judge myself is on my impact on the world at large.
Right.
So one.
Yeah. Two questions for you. How do the students, I imagine it's positive. I'd just be curious how the students respond to that message. And two, do you have any specific exercises that you give them that we might be able to pass on to the listeners here in trying to maybe concretize some of those steps?
Yeah. Well, with the first three, the exercise, it's interesting because you're working with students 18 to say in their 30s, okay? Because you got non-traditionals too. But with the 18s, they've already had moments in their life that they can't get back because they didn't show up. They missed class, they missed and so showing up is, you already have experiences with your failures of not showing up very quickly. Keep going. I've talked to so many people that they were Division I athletes their freshman year, and then they quit. And you'll say, well, why'd you do it? It's like, and honestly, I've talked to men in their 50s who get close to tears. It's like, I don't know. It was my goal. It was the thing I wanted the most. And it's my biggest regret. Very often, number two. But to me, if there is going to be an exercise, it is first to practice shark habits. Let's just do, let's hear the yes, no things in life. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And then when you make a pirate map with somebody, and it's interesting because, you have that little booklet on pirate maps, but watching people try to make a pirate map, I want you to make a pirate map for what you want to do the next 20 years. And they can't follow the simple instructions.
It's hard. Pirate mapping is hard.
Mm-hmm. They have 300 things a day they want to do. And I go, no, 3 or 5, I make it 3 or 5 just to make them focus in a little bit. But the exercise itself, now where I go backwards off of that, and I pretty much write about this in my books, I use the Tony Robbins approach of the pain-pleasure chart. That's one of the first things I have them do. So inside that pirate map is this goal, okay? I want to throw the discus farther. So one of the things is I'm going to lift weights 3 days a week. I'm going to throw the discus 4 days a week for the next 8 years. Okay, so there's the pirate map. And then, of course, we move over to that chart. It's a quadrant. Of course, it's a quadrant where pain and pleasure on top and get the goal, don't get the goal are on the side. And then your job is, so what pleasure will you get if you get your goal? And what's funny, Pat, in my work with athletes, that is the weakest of the quadrants. Well, like the one when Mike once said, well, it'd be cool. So you're going to dedicate the next 8 years of your life to this thing because, and I quote, it would be cool.
It'd be sweet.
Yeah. And so it'd be sweet. Oh, that's much deeper. It's much. And now we're on a roll, baby. So one of my jobs if you're going to do this quest, this journey, you'd better have a little bit more then it would be cool. We maybe talk about the uniforms. You might, if you become an Olympian, you get a special license plate for the rest of your life, which is pretty cool. You know, you'll be in your Hall of Fame. You know, your kids and grandkids will be able to go to this thing, and there'll be you in the Hall of Fame. That'd be so cool. What will be the pain of getting your goal? Well, what do you mean pain? I'm going to get my goal. Yeah, I know. Well, when I got one of my biggest goals in my life, getting a scholarship to Utah State University, you know, I remember the night before I was leaving, you know, Eric Subert and Tony Martin and I were sitting on the curb, literally sitting on the curb. And I thought to myself, and I looked, and there were Scotty Stiles and Greg Winslow and there's Kim and Jerry Winslow and all my neighborhood friends. And, you know, I knew that once I left the next day, it's not going to happen again. You know, this was going to be kind of over, you know. So here I got the biggest goal of my life, and yet, you know, I've seen Greg, wow, once since then. You know, I've seen Eric a few times. Tony Martin, I don't think I've seen since then. Because when I left, you know.
You know, that reminds me, there was a meme that was going around. I don't know what I always think about memes, but this one got me, right? It was like a picture of the Sandlot kids at the end of the movie, and the meme said something like, this is the last time all these kids would ever be together, and they didn't even know it. And it like hits you right in the gut, you know, because like we all had that when we were kids. Like we think the last time we were with our neighborhood friends. Now, you knew it was the last time, but I think.
Oh no, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, right. And it's
Oh.
like, dang, if only I would have known, I would have extended another hour. I would have said something that I wish I would have said. So it was one of those kind of stupid memes, but it hit me in the gut a little bit. Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, Tarl and I were going, Tarl Lindvigsman was probably my best friend on the track team. He was our 5,000 meter runner. We're heading up to, some crap meet up in Montana or something like that. You know, because I mean, spring here is terrible. And somebody said on the team that Playboy magazine had picked Utah State as one of the top 10 party schools in America. And Tarl and I, we were the partiers. Well, I mean, you know, when you're a track and field athlete, partier is a extremely relative term, you know. And I remember just kind of talked for a while about, you know, how much are we missing? Because, you know, we'd leave Friday, sometimes mid-morning, get on a bus for 8, 9, 12 hours, pull in, stay at a hotel room, compete. Track meet would get over, we'd jump on the bus and come home. So we would get into Logan at 4 or 5 in the morning, freezing cold, have to walk up to the dorms and, you know, minus weather, freezing cold. Get in the dorms and, you know, all the roommates, we passed out. The smell of dorm room was just horrid because of all the, you know, whatever. And yeah, when you get your goal, you miss out on a lot of parties. Now, we'll slide down, not getting your goal. This is the toolkit, okay? So this is not getting, what is the pleasure you get from not getting your goal? Well, maybe you get a chance to make out with Edna or, you know, Olivia, you know, which is really nice.
Olga, if using those types of names. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get a chance to sit around and, you know, in your dorm room, you know, drinking beer with a bunch of, you know, local Logan girls. You get you know, you don't have to, you know, I've had classmates ask me if I was okay in class before. And I'd say, I'm just in so much pain from training. You know, Dr. Kulkarni one time asked me why I always bled on his papers. There was always blood on my work. And it was because we had to throw the hammer at about 7 in the morning in Logan because it was so dangerous. So throwing the hammer in snow at 7 in the morning when the temperature is, 3, 2, and it would just rip the skin off the back of my left hand, and it would continue to bleed. I basically bled all the time. Well, it's kind of nice. And then Dr. Kulkarni, Mr. John, he had that great sing-song accent. He was also he was a discus hammer thrower when he was growing up. And when I told him my numbers, he said, "Oh, you are very good." And then, of course, it comes to the easiest one. What would be the pain of not getting your goal? And a lot of people seem to fill that box in the easiest at first. And then a year later, we come back and do it again. And that box becomes much harder to fill in because the amount of pain is higher and higher and higher and higher every year for not getting your goal. When you first say what the pain would be, it's not real. It's imagined pain. But once you've seen, once you've gone through a couple surgeries for your goal, once you've given up relationships and fun and time and treasure and talents, then that goal becomes, not getting the goal becomes more and more and more painful. So that's the exercise I do. And it's a cruel exercise, Patrick. It's a cruel exercise.
Good.
It's my job then to take what you tell me and twist it. Famously, I think I talk about it in attempts where with Mike, whenever he would start to, his biggest thing was his ex-girlfriend would be right. And that was a real killer for him.
Ooh, can't be having that.
And so when he would say something like, when I say, "Are you eating vegetables for breakfast?" He said, "No, sometimes." "Well, then good. Well, I guess your ex-girlfriend would be right, huh?"
Oh, yeah, twist the screws, right?
It's my job.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
No. This is where the cruelty of coaching comes in. If you have high goals, there's high pain. And I'd much rather be the jerk who says that to you on a September morning, 2 years away from the trials, than to have to walk with you after when you didn't get what you wanted. Mm-hmm. I can remember. I remember sitting in the stands. It's the same day. It's a 2-day period where there's a plus and a minus. One of my athletes is about to foul out at the state championships when he should win it with his warm-ups, and sitting up there in the stands trying to find out, it's his last throw, his last year, and he fouls it, and trying to find a way to what do you say as a coach? How much, I can't even trend the person in the right direction. What can I say, Pat? You come up with that. What am I supposed to say to this young man? And then the next day, sitting up in the stands and watching a repeat of what happened the year before, when my female shot putter went into the last round in first place and then got taken down on the last throw and ended up in second. And I'm watching it the very, very next year. The exact same thing is happening. And my wife is sitting next to me going, "Well, what are you going to say?" I'm out of tools. And of course, that little thrower then erupted for a school record, personal record on her last throw, and destroyed her competition. And so I just cried because, it was my own daughter. It's the most I've ever cried as a coach because I knew how painful it was for her to lose on that last throw.
Yeah. Wow.
So sometimes as a coach, I'm not being cruel when I say this stuff, gentle listener.
Well, it's, what it is, Dan. It's tough love. And that is not an easy thing for a coach to do. We talked about love last episode of agape, which is properly understood. It's willing the good of the other. And there might be times where willing the good of the other means it could come off as not so nice. Let's at least say that. We also talked about one time maybe it was a month or two ago, that movie Whiplash. I love that movie. And it's an interesting dynamic because you're never sure whether that instructor, who is arguably like immensely cruel to his students, whether he really does care about his students reaching their goal, or if he's just a demented psychopath. And you finish that movie never really knowing. I don't know. You kind of get a hint at the end that maybe his heart was in the right place. But there's something about that movie that resonated with me, especially in music, because I had a pretty tough in high school. I was in jazz band all through high school. Wasn't throwing cymbals at my head or anything like that. But he wasn't afraid to deliver the tough love. He wasn't afraid to cause you to lose your seat, right? To twist those screws in important ways. You hated it at the time, but I won a couple awards. You know, I'm obviously not a touring musician, but I accomplished some pretty decent things. And would I have done that without the pressure that coach applied? No, I think it's absolutely fair to say I would not have. I would not have reached higher. I would not have practiced as hard. So he hit some type of right balance where, yes, I was annoyed at him frequently, but also inspired and motivated because of it. And that's a very tough thing for a coach to figure out, because the easy thing to do is to want to kind of be fawning with your clients and overly accommodating, but that's the absolute wrong way to go about it, right? That's not really facilitating the good of your client if you disagree with the things that they want all the time, because why are they even coming to you in the first place, right?
Well, I think back to my senior year in high school and Coach DeYoung, South City High, when I was playing, it was a funnel into Division I athletics. I mean, we were good. We we had lost to some really, really good teams, and then kind of beat the hell out of some really, really bad teams. And we were about to face the next really big hard stretch, and it was against our two biggest rivals. And Tuesday of rivalry week, I mean, the biggest game we're about to play, we're just dead. We're just at dead practice. We've only been out there about half an hour, and Coach DeYoung brings the team together, and he says, I've been coaching here a long time, and he had been, and he said, this is the worst practice I've ever seen. Get off this field. And we didn't have practice. We went into the locker room. It's funny. I had an emotional reaction to what I just said. I hope you noticed. Mm-hmm. I still don't exactly know how to deal with what happened. Get off this field. So we went in, got our street clothes off, and there was not. If someone spoke, what they said was, "Whoa." And of course, we defeated our two rivals next 2 weeks in the last 30 seconds. And I think the reason we won, not because we practiced harder, is because we got kicked off the field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not recommending that. Of course, we had enough talent for that.
Well, you can't recommend it because it's something that it can't be affected, right? It's something, it's a sort of phronesis, right? A practical wisdom that a coach has to, it's not something that can be taught. It's only something that can be learned. You see what I'm getting at?
You can't manufacture that. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
In the same way, I can't let you know how much pain you're going to have if you come right up to the cusp of your goal. It's like at the Academy Awards when they film the loser's face. I'm always like, stop that. I think the producers of that show, can I use a potty word?
Sure. Cover your earmuffs, kids.
Earmuffs. I think it's the most asshole thing they do.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they're all actors, so they pretend like they're clapping wildly. But anybody who's ever been that close.
Nobody's that happy about losing, right? Yeah.
I mean, Mother Teresa probably would use the middle finger. I mean, come on. And again, you can't I can't tell you how much pain you're going to be in if you get that close to your goals. Now, if you're 10,000 miles from your goal and you fail, yeah, I get it. Little Billy takes 30, in the 8th grade, championship where no one even knows how to hold the implement. That doesn't mean anything.
Right. The more skin you have in the game, the more it hurts. Right.
And that's why I don't take money advice from a lot of people, because, well, first off, very cockily, I said I do better, but also I only take advice from people skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to hear, you know, if you're a 21-year-old, you know, tell me how to make it in life. I don't want to hear your nonsense. I read a really good book. The guy's name is Derek Sivers, S-I-V-E-R, Sivers, I guess.
Sounds a little familiar.
It's a book. He owned the company CD Baby. Well worth your time to look it up. And it's my friend Brian told me to read it, and I'm reading the book. And one of the things that
what's the name of the book?
That would be a good question. I don't know, but it's I'll look it up on Amazon while I'm yabbering. But it is a remarkable book, because it's all about skin in the game. You know, it's all about skin in the game, and I think there's some real value. Hold on here. Anything You Want
by Derek Sivers. Okay, there's your reading recommendation. We usually have one of those per episode. Very good.
Yeah, I very much liked it. I thought it was brilliant. He learned some tough lessons, and but I like the rhythm of the book. And it is funny, because when you make a mistake, that's $1 million mistakes are a lot different than $5 mistakes.
Right.
Multi-million-dollar mistakes, you learn a lot more from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. Well, I appreciate you sharing those insights, Dan. I'm very fortunate that the students got to get that lecture, if you will. So let's turn to training now. How's your training been this week? What's going on that front?
Well, yesterday I had so it snowed, and I still train outside. So yesterday I was Olympic snatching.
Oh, when's your competition? That's creeping up here, right?
A month away now.
Okay.
And I got some body weight issues I'm gonna have to figure out how to deal with. This last week with the election, my alcohol intake, my liver is the size of a Volkswagen. But
so wait, what are the weight classes then, if you don't mind?
Well, the new ones I don't know as well, but I'm going to try to get down to 102 kilos, which is about 225.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, in the mornings I weigh in. I do two things. I weigh in and I take my waist measurement. And the weird thing is, my waist measurement's okay. My body weight's up. So I'm wondering. So when I get towards the end there, I'm wondering, because I eat so much sauerkraut, and I've been eating a lot of chilies lately. Not this place Chili's, but I make a lot of chilies this time of year. And I'm just wondering if this is such a great, I wonder if my salt issue is a little high right now.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Because it's like the two things aren't, the numbers aren't, generally I kind of can tell you that when I'm weighing in the around 200, around 100 kilos in the 220 range, generally my waistline's about, 36, 37. My waistline number and my weight on the scale number usually coincide. This time it's my waistline's in a good place. My weight number's high.
Yeah, a little disjointed.
So basically every day I'm doing snatches and then squat clean and front squat, just to, ratchet up my technique a little bit. We have a new guy coming. He's a strong man. It's kind of fun I'm teaching him the Olympic lifts. I also came out with it's a kettlebell, how-to for home trainer kettlebell video. And it's on my YouTube channel. There's a 15-minute one that's got the highlights. And then there's the longer one that has everything. And I hate to say this, but it's only for members of the site. I'm sorry, Patrick, I have to do that. But we're getting.
Hey, you know what? We all got to make a living, Dan. No apologies needed.
Actually, it's from the members on the site. One of the critiques of the site is, since I give away everything, why be a member? And it's like, okay, you want to be a member because of the workout generator, but also too. So I'm working on that.
Right, and you know what I get it. I've been like you, Dan. You've been on the internet producing content longer than I have, but I'm not a rookie anymore. I've been at it for quite a while, so I've dealt with comments like that. I guess the one thing that's always nice is, and you don't always hear from these people as much, Right. It's always the people who want to complain or something like that that are always the loudest. And so they distract you and annoy you. But there are, and I just want to say this as a note of appreciation, because I know it's a lot of listeners here. There are people who see the great content you're doing. They understand that you're putting a lot of work into it, that it's free, and they get value out of the membership site and this or that, but they're happy to support it anyways. So I just want to say thank you to all those people. We know you're there. We appreciate you. So that is a nice, thing. I have to try and remind myself that those people exist, because when I get the other person who's complaining about putting out free content, so why should I support everything else you're doing, makes me want to put my head through a window. So
funny, in this book I just read, Derek Stevens, is one of the things I like so much. I think I talk about it somewhere. I mean, it's in this week's Modern Weights. Archbishop Niederauer famously called me a diva because all I ever look at is the negative reviews. And one of Seaver's points is, if someone doesn't like it, especially in the internet world, okay, bye. It's just, I'm not going to bump into them on the corner. They're not going to come to my, if they don't like it, don't come. That's one of the reasons I like intentional community training so much. There was this woman in, she considered herself a kettlebell expert, and she came to the Coyote Point Kettlebell Club. And Steve-O later told me, he said, "You never came back." She goes, "Well, I didn't learn a thing. I already knew it all." And I thought to myself, well, good. Put the adjective in the middle, riddance. Because I don't need your crap. I don't need your, that I already knew it all. That is the least educated thing a human, I think, can say. I learn from everyone. When I'm reading a book with my grandchild Josephine, or when little Danny is trying to explain, Danny is in the first Quidditch match in the first Harry Potter book, and when he tries to explain to me what he thinks happening at his reading level, it's fascinating. I learn from everyone all the time. You can't learn anything about kettlebells in an hour and a half training session with me, Dan Martin, Steve-O, 5 or 6 or 7. You didn't learn a single thing.
That's it. I mean, that's if that is true, that is the most impressive thing I've heard all week.
Yeah, it's just that total lack of intellectual honesty
and just social awareness. just basic conversation skills. Like,
but
yeah.
Again, like all those people, I mean, they're all out of the industry. They're all,
right. Yeah, the fitness industry has really changed in so many interesting ways in the last 10 years, hasn't it, Dan?
Well, it's sad because in 2010, we had that unified front in the kettlebell. You could see it breaking apart a little bit. We're all going on the basic same train tracks, and I knew I was bitter about a few things, and I do apologize for any role I had. I don't know how much it was. Mostly what St. Benedict would have called murmuring. I murmured a little bit. I let my ego get in the way a little bit. But one of the things that's something I want to tell you, Patrick, like many, between COVID and the election, it's been a difficult time for me. So one of the things I've been doing is I've been reaching out to people I've disenfranchised from my life, consciously, unconsciously. I called one of my brothers I haven't talked to in a long time. And honestly, of course, I'm going to say it this way. It's his fault, not mine. But I called him up, and I'm doing my best to repair that relationship. I called up a friend of mine who I haven't talked to in a long time. Again, an issue came up, not drinking, not sexual, silly damn thing involving kids. And we got on opposite sides of the argument with the children, and we disenfranchised from that, sadly, because that's what happens. I reached out to a very big name in the fitness industry that that your listeners talk about on Reddit all the time. His name is Pavel, and we've had several good emails, and I would never say the two of us were ever at odds with each other. It just, stuff happens sometimes, especially when it comes to the second you put money in the pot, things change. But
Right.
Pavel and I are working on a project together. I think
Oh, that's great news. That's really good.
I don't know how much I can tell you, but let me just say, for those who've been asking, you're getting what you want.
Oh, and
So
you're
that,
getting it here, breaking on the Pat Flynn
yeah.
Show. So all the more reason to subscribe.
And I look back on that whole breakup of the kettlebell community, and I still name one person, Lady Macbeth, whispering in the ear all the time. But let's see, who else am I reaching out to? So those are three big ones. But
Well, hey, that's great on all fronts. I
yeah,
mean,
so one of the things
taking the time. I mean, I just keep going back to C.S. Lewis, where he says, like, forgiveness is the hardest, of the virtues to practice. And when you try, maybe it's best not to start with the Gestapo, but we have to start somewhere, right? And and
yeah,
it's true, right? And sometimes, it's a light in the darkness type of thing, right? Sometimes it takes difficult situations and layers of suffering to
yeah,
bring that about. But that's such an admirable thing, Dan. It really is, to be
yeah,
able to just reach out and say, hey, I know, and look, I've got many of these instances in my own life, and it's something I need to
yeah.
do more of myself and say, I know things didn't end well. Obviously, it was totally your fault. We always want to make sure that that's clear. But maybe we can work through this, right?
Yeah. So that was maybe too personal, but hey, if it's then it wouldn't be me talking, would it? Yeah. I don't know.
That's why I love these conversations. So that's great. I mean, yeah, I mean, there was something about the golden days, right? There were many things that people were unhappy with, but there was at least this sort of, like you said, this unified energy. It was an electric time, if nothing else. I remember going to my first cert, um, early college, and it was at that big, Dan, you were there. You weren't at mine, but you were there later doing easy strength. Like I just missed you.
Oh yeah, that place. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and downtown, that huge facility, there had to be 130 people at the cert, and there was just something about that energy that was just so
So
fantastic and so cool, right? Mm-hmm.
so with Jim, I did that one down in Newport Harbor, Newport Beach, at Jim Hooper's place, and it was an HKC hardstyle kettlebell cert, and I think we had 11 people taking it as candidates, and I think we had 13 RKCs show up, and they were in their khakis and their shirts, and I just every 5 minutes I'd say, okay, this is Pat Flynn, he's an RKC. This is Bob Jones, and every single participant had one-on-one coaching, and I'm sitting there going, this is pretty amazing. Paul Daniels came down, and there was because if there was an HKC or RKC event, people would drive an hour or two to come and be part of it.
Oh yeah.
Just say
Mm-hmm.
hi, buzz in. That was some good vibe, man. That was some good vibe.
Right. So that's cool. We very much look forward to hearing about those projects. I had one other question, but it skipped my mind. I know we usually do listener questions, but I thought maybe on this episode we could just do listener haikus, because last time we asked people to write their fitness haikus. We've got a lot of great submissions. So yeah, what do you say, Dan? Should we do a little fitness poetry?
One of the actually a couple of people have sent me text messages, and with this, and they are. I got to tell you, this has a rhythm to it, Patrick. There is let's use the word vibe again. This has this little contest kind of has a heartbeat. This is something I think people care about. That makes me happy. Go ahead. Let's start.
Yeah, no, tons of fun. All right, so we'll read the haikus, and we'll just kind of treat these as conversation starters. I think this will be fun. So the first one, the ones I'm reading, by the way, if this is your haiku, you are a winner of Dan John's audiobook attempts. So I've got codes for that. So, but it's on you to email me. I'm not going to go fishing around for you. You got to email me, and we'll see if you listen carefully. This one comes from James Huntington. He says, "Hi, Pat and Dan, longtime reader, brand new listener." Thank you, James. I could get into great detail about myself, but I don't want to bore you. I'm so glad I started listening to the podcast. Only wish I'd listened sooner. The two of you are my favorite people in the worlds of modern fitness and philosophy. I'm not saying that's why he won, Dan, but I am saying flattery gets you everywhere.
It doesn't hurt, James. A little flattery, a little, a little bit of little tip, little money in the tip jar. It always
can't hurt your odds. I've been trying to simplify for years and actually have written programs using a similar strategy as haiku, where the whole program is explained in 3 or 4 short lines of poetry. So there we go, right? Yeah. Your discussion has made me revisit the strategy, and maybe I will rewrite the programming into haiku and pass it around. Here's my general health haiku. So here we go. Move weight here to there, go farther for endurance, eat food from nature. Move weight from here to move weight here to there. Okay, I got it wrong. It's 5 syllables. Go farther for endurance. Yep. Eat food from nature. There we go. James Huntington from A Cultivated Man. So our first haiku winner.
Move weights here to there. That's not a bad summary, huh? Go farther. James, that's money, James. Show me the money. That's very good. That is very good. Thank you, James. Huh. Wow.
All right, let's pull.
Any chance you can cut and paste these to onto the show notes?
Surely can.
I don't mind that. Just stop calling me, Shirley. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next one comes from John York.
Okay. Hold on. John York. I'm not going to give details on who he is, but gentle listener. When I use the word great American, I don't use that phrase lightly. You're about to hear from a great American. I don't want to give up too much of his personal life because that, in this age may be inappropriate, but John York is a great American. Go ahead.
And Dan John did not tell me that before I selected this one. So providential perhaps. So he says, Pat, here we go. 54 years old, late to the strength game learning, keep the goal the goal. Appreciate all you do. You and Dan do. John York.
John has the book Attempts. He might not actually know the author, but if you want anything, you ping me and I'll take good care of you. Okay.
Awesome. All right. Let's move on.
That's great.
To Eric Mulmeyer.
Eric. Okay.
And Eric says, maybe we could even give a few honorable mentions. These were the 3 winners I picked. So if you're one of these 3 winners, you get the book, but you got to reach out for it. Eric says, great podcast. I love the weekly talks. The 2 of you have about everything and nothing all at once. Keep up the great work. After making 1 haiku, I couldn't resist making a few more. So Eric really went for the gold here. He pretty much wrote a whole poetry book. All right. So the first one is, you start with water, then add protein and veggies, then strive for fiber. Solid.
That's a nice little... make sure you have that one up. That's a nice dietary sub. That's nice.
Yeah, we'll put all these up. Yeah. All right. His second submission is, what did your mom say? Eat protein, veggies, water. Listen to your mom.
That's really good, man.
Next one, Art Devaney says, don't get fat in the first place. It is what you ate.
Not what you eat. That's very good. Hey, tell you what, since John, I know that John doesn't need the attempts thing. Do you want to pick one more out of our honorable mention?
We'll do the honorable mention one here. So let me read Eric's last one. Gentle listeners, just entertain us. I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I appreciate people taking the time to send it in. He says, use consistency, push, pull, hinge, squat, and carry again and again.
I mean, I'm starting to think, Patrick, is this a book?
Yeah, I think it could be, Dan. I think it could be the most beautiful and practical poetry book of all time.
Oh my God, this is fantastic stuff. This is
all right.
Yeah.
Let me give an honorable mention from YouTube, because I know we just started putting the podcast on YouTube, and
Okay.
want to keep the momentum going there, and let people know that I appreciate their comments and submissions there. So let me get my old rectangle. We all carry our rectangles around, right, Dan? Let's see. Read it off the old rectangle here. Okay, Jason Pemberton. You, my sir, are going to be the third winner here.
Okay.
Use your body weight. Eat protein and greens. Do cleans. Better hydration.
Could you read that again for me?
Use your body weight. Oh, I'm sorry. Use your body right. Eat protein and greens. Do cleans. Better hydration.
Yeah, that's not bad. Right there on the old. Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
Like
I'll do two more here. Just this one comes from the exercise teacher. Practice being strong. Move often. Eat like a grown up. I don't know if that's a haiku. I think we're missing some syllables there.
Like grown up. That's 5.
Well, practice being strong, but then the second one is just move often. We need 7 syllables there,
Well,
right?
Move often. Move.
That's
and a lot. Move often and a lot. There you go.
What makes this up there? Fair enough. Still honorable mention. So,
Sure.
Okay. Winners are Jason Pemberton, Eric. I'm sorry, I forget your last name, but if you're listening, you remember. And who was our first one? I totally forget now. But just rewind the episode if you're unsure, because there you have it. So thank you, gentle listeners, for submitting that. That was fun. And the exercise here, what I guess we're challenging people to do is just focus on brevity, because the whole thing we talked about in the previous episode is a good exercise program, or what makes an exercise program good is the extent that you can boil it down to its essentials and leave it at that. I mean, one of my favorite pieces of writing advice from William Zinsser on Writing Well is he says, the quote is something like, any piece of writing will improve in direct ratio to the number of words you can leave out of it that don't need to be there. And how true that is of pretty much any effort, exercise program, etc.
And then what happens, it's like I remember taking Dr. Ken Brewer, my professor, was the Utah Poet Laureate. And we would go through a poem. And I remember he did a whole series on, it was called Mongrel. It was a dog that walked around Utah cities. And, and I can remember one of them was 2 sentences. And yet our discussion of Mongrel probably lasted 35 minutes. So
what are you going to do with, I'm sorry, yeah, finish your thought. Yep.
So what poetry allows you to do is condense down to practically nothing and then expand back out, which is why I think both are important to get rid of every single morsel and just cut. And then from that cut, the discussion expands geometrically, and that's why I like these those haikus, is that move weights here to there. I mean, well, does he mean from the floor to overhead? Yes. Does he mean pick him up and carry him? Yes. Does he mean yeah? And then all of a sudden you start running into push, pull, hinge, squat, load, and carry, horizontal, vertical, rotation, anti-rotation. Yeah, you just run down that road, man. Good
right,
stuff.
and it keeps you focused on the fundamentals. The details important, right? But you don't want to get lost in the weeds. You don't want to miss the proverbial forest for the trees, as they have it. So now let me ask you this. This has been a theme I've been talking about this week to my subscribers. Maybe we could finish up with some advice here. Endurance, the importance of endurance training. People who want to improve their endurance specifically in a minimalist fashion. I wanted to pick your brain about that, and what type of recommendations or protocols you would recommend for somebody who wants to work on that aspect of fitness.
It's not an area that I would consider myself an expert, except, I know a lot because being a track coach and just being around so much. But one of the things I think you need to do if you're going to improve your endurance is you do have to circle the week and say, this is the long day. And the problem with the long day is if you're going to go, it's longer, okay, longer. And if you walk for half an hour every day, which is laudable and I think great, that one long day should be an hour, maybe two, perhaps as high as 3 times as long. And I'm speaking long. I said long. It's about time. It's not about distance. If you're getting ready to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, like I helped with that one group years ago, the mountain climbing program, the idea was every Saturday you would do that loaded backpack, just to get used to the backpack, because you're going to carry up a mountain. And that was the long hike. And the idea was getting used to having that backpack on those shoulders for longer and longer and longer periods. It's not so much that you go from a mile to 8 miles. It's the idea that you go from an hour to 3 hours, because time is probably more difficult on the chafing than distance.
Right.
So one day a week, I think you should go long. One day a week, you should probably have some kind of hardish, intervalish, and don't read. That doesn't mean 20, 200 meter repeats. It means that there is a hard, easy, hard, easy, hard, easy, or the Swedish word fartlek, which means speed play, where you go hard up a hill, you go gentle on the flat, you walk down the hill, where there's some, you're asking yourself to do different things. So the one long day a week, the one intervally hardish day a week, and then probably 2 mediums, where you just get the work in. You just, this is the day we meander, we saunter. This is the day we just get out and get the mileage in.
Yeah, that's great. Super practical. So I think that's awesome, Dan. Why don't you, I know we'll be wrapping up a little bit early. That's okay. I think we've given people their money's worth with their haikus. I got to meet the wife at the gym anyways. We got a little workout date today. Let us know what's, you already hinted at this, but what's coming down the pipeline over at Dan John University. I always want to put the bug in people's ear about all the good work that you're doing, and hope that people will continue to support it in every way that they can.
Well, it's been a half an hour or an hour since I've been there, so Brian's probably added 30 improvements.
34 new videos and workshops.
Every time I go in there, it's like, yeah.
The content is so valuable. I can't, encourage people enough to go and take
the number one thing right now, just in globally, the kettlebell workshop for the home trainee. Like I say, it's not a certification. It's to help people who train at home. And I try to be as honest as I can about, okay, this works, this doesn't, that kind of stuff. I talk about safety. I talk about, I wouldn't say it's a cert, but I kind of go through the big stuff from certs. A lot of the certs would not do some of the stuff I tell people. But when I train someone who's trained at home, they sometimes need things with bands and sticks and walls.
Right.
Because they have to, when you're self-coached, you need something touching you.
Some type of tactile feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. You need some kind of exterior tactile. Exactly. The workout, the fat loss workout generator might be the single best thing. I mean, it's phenomenal. It is just amazing. So so the site is blowing up. It's getting bigger by the day. More and more people are joining. The quality of some of the forum quality. We've got professors whose PhD students come on. It's just, I got to be really careful about what I say today, because there's smart people looking at it now. I can't just make
right. Yeah.
It's just
makes you sit down and really think about what you're typing. That's good. We want that. I just want to let people know, I think as detrimental as social media can be, or the internet in general, you can find really good communities. I think Strong On is a great example, where you have, as Dan John says, intentional communities. Dan, I know all the forums you've been involved on always have that quality. And I understand people's hesitancy with social media and online, because we all know how terrible that can be. But if you find a good community, even online, it can so help you out.
Yeah, and it has to be a living, breathing organism, which new people come in, some people need to go.
Right.
Not everybody can beat protein. Some people have to eat fiber. Their leaving makes the community better. I always say that with coaching. You know, when I come up with a new idea, when I come up with something to add to our system, one of the things I have to do is I go through the whole system and say, okay, because we brought this in, this needs to go. I think in community that can be true sometimes too, sadly, but true.
Mm-hmm. And some of the people that leave, you know, they leave in a good way. They've grown to a certain point. I remember at our gym, people would rise through the ranks and become instructors, and then they'd go start their own gym, and that's fine. You know, that's just what happens sometimes. You know,
my friend Patrick is a therapist, and he says he's done his job the best when someone says, I don't need to come anymore. So a good therapist, by definition, is trying to get people to go out the door. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, in fact, the class I just talked to, the professor is Paul Northway, my great discus thrower. And it's interesting because to watch our relationship change from coach and athlete to maybe friends to now co-walkers on the journey. It's you know, we're even again, and I think that's a beautiful thing. That's where I want to get with my students and my athletes is, you know, I want to get away. I want them to one day teach me, you know, right. Walk with me.
Beautiful. Yeah. Dan John University. Everyone check it out. Grab the new book, Attempts. Support Dan John, all the good work that he's doing. Yes. We really appreciate it. We want to show our appreciation there. I certainly appreciate these conversations, Dan. One of my favorite things to do, sit here, have coffee with you, talk about everything and nothing, as one of our listeners said.
Always, I love that. Yes.
And if you like the podcast, you want to support it, share it, leave a review. You know the drill. Dan, thank you so much.
You are an absolute joy. I look forward to my Tuesday meetings with you. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you next week.